Welcome back to the Agentic Insider. I'm your host, Philip Swan. In this show, we explore cutting-edge ideas and trends in AI and data, as well as hear from other industry thought leaders in the AI space. This podcast is brought to you by Iridius AI, committed to safe and responsible AI innovation. Let's dig in. Welcome to this week's edition of the Agentic Insider. With my co-host Alistair, we're joined today with someone who has a global reach and has helped customers in over a dozen countries. He's a top global influencer in big data, data center, cloud, and analytics, according to Thinkers 360, and one of the most influential people in data and Data IQ's 2024 list. He's an author, books like Integrating Hadoop and Formative Management. Welcome, President of McKnight Consulting Group, William McKnight. Welcome to the show.
Hello, it's great to be here, be part of the growth of your podcast.
Well, thank you, William. So, William, we always ask our guests the same question as we start. What future are you solving for?
Okay, well, I am solving for a future where my clients, enterprises across the globe, are going to need to do more with data than what they're doing now. And this means they have to start making all their data accessible to artificial intelligence, especially agents. And by all data, it's the fine-grained detailed data. It's all data types, audio, video, text, as well as good old alphanumeric data that we've kind of already solved, but not fully. So it's all data, getting that ready for AI.
That's great. So, what inspired you to start on this journey?
Well, I've been in data my whole career, 30 plus years, and various aspects of the world of data. So I started as an engineer of software and one of the major database products that's out there today. Still. And I did some IT work where I was presiding over some of the early data warehouses back then. Kimball had just come out with his book, Inman with his book, got a hold of the books, found an application for it, probably the wrong way to go about that, but it worked. And I've been consulting now for 20 years plus. And it's all been in data. And of course, data's changed a lot. And that's good with me because I like to keep up and stay on the leading edge of things. And so this field gives you that opportunity if you take advantage of it. And I like to think I did. And just going from client to client, experience to experience, it's just been great. I'm ushered right into the boardroom basically, and we understand and getting a deep understanding of that business. So that's enjoyable as well.
I bet it is. And I think, data, without data, there's no AI. Okay. And so this is only going to, become a more important topic, even if it hasn't been in the past. It obviously has, but it's now going to become even more important. So I see a lot more people sort of, coming into this area. But given your experience and the background that you have in this, everyone's talking very heavily about the fact that you need to think through the data before you can really help your AI, build the use cases that you need inside your organization. What's your perspective on this?
Oh, you gotta have a plan for data, and it has to be a plan that's going to be accessible to various applications. That's what it's all about. The applications, AI agent applications, other forms. Those are what's driving ROI to the bottom line of the business. And data is an enabler for that. But you can't just allow each application to do its own thing with data, or you're going to have a big mess. And frankly, that's where a lot of enterprises sit right now with their data, because they haven't had that overarching architecture and leadership. And so we try to come in and say, there's some commonality here in the need, and there definitely needs to be some commonality of architecture. And there are overarching programs that you need, like data governance across data. So with all that That is how you get your data act together, get your data organized for AI, put it into a real architecture that people understand, it's well performing, and it's governed. And that is really a precursor to any kind of AI success.
So are there any new considerations that people need to have when they're thinking about, data in terms of being able to have AI access it or train on it or so on, that's really any different than you've been considering for years before it came along?
I wouldn't say there's a lot different there, but the need for it is much more pressing. The need for this all to be tight is much more pressing. And there's been some new ideas that have some science put behind them now that we should avail ourselves of. And all that being said, I always think you should architect data with the end in mind, with how is it going to be used? And now, of course, we're talking about AI. So with that in mind, you architect slightly differently uh, for that end, but you're still trying to get a good architecture in place. As a matter of fact, a good architecture of any stripe really is better than picking the very, very best architecture for you and trying to achieve that, which may take some time and is unattainable and so forth. So anyway, we tend to lean on a data mesh type approach to the architectures that we build. So it's got a nice blend of centralization and decentralization in there.
Wow, so this I want to double click on this a little bit, right? Where because you've totally gone into the importance of thoughtful architecture choices for AI success. But what are the biggest architectural mistakes that you've seen organizations make when building an infrastructure for AI, whether it's agentified or otherwise?
So a lot of times enterprises will think that they're doing architecture, but they're really not. They're really letting whatever happens, and then trying to form an architecture around what happened. And okay, to some degree, I know we got deadlines and that sort of thing, and things will happen. But I think just you got to take a more heads up approach to it. And you just need to have somebody or some buddies in the organization that understand a great deal of information in order to do this right and bring everything to bear on the architecture that the industry gives us today, and not just relying on the old ways we've always done things, but understanding that there is now streaming data, graph data, master data, unstructured data, audio data, video. We got to get it all under control. And there are many ways that we can go about doing that. But if you try to force fit everything into an older architecture approach that doesn't allow for any of this, it's not going to work. And so just taking a real heads up, mindful approach to architecture is really step one.
You bring up these the way we've always done things, which gets me in my mind of existing or legacy systems, right? And how and how you introduce agentic AI into these art and sometimes archaic. I mean, we ran in the insurance industry. We ran in very recently to customers still running in COBOL, and their systems are still running, code that was written in the 70s. So how do you see the people integrating those legacy systems? Are they replacing them, or are they augmenting them with AI?
Replacing is so hard. It's so hard to convince a company that they need to do that, because everybody wants to do the forward-looking thing, right? The AI, not go back here into old COBOL code and retrofit it to more modern standards and so forth. But comes a time, and it's a judgment call. Comes a time when that does need to happen. So it is happening with increased pace, just like everything in data. So yes, organizations are leveling up their architecture, leveling up their technology, leveling up their organization and their approaches faster than ever, because I think the realization is setting in that AI is not here today, gone tomorrow. It is something that is a definite keeper and going to be a definite competitive advantage. And I'm already seeing it. I'm already seeing it in so many use cases out there in the industry using AI, getting ahead. And in my opinion, I think they're getting ahead of the competition for good. And so, there's kind of this kind of background noise in our industry now about, well, you know what, if you're not doing a lot of AI now, that's okay. Be patient, you'll get there. I say no. I say no. I say the real winners are getting there now. And so you need to put the pedal to the metal and start getting your AI act in place now. Really, now's the time.
So, let's take that a little bit further. So, I know that you have spent a lot of time putting structure around how you assess and improve data maturity, and I know that you said that an increase in data maturity correlates to an increase in business success, and each level of that maturity corresponds to not only an increase in maturity but also increased organizational maturity, bottom line ROI, and so on. So, well, how can an exec who might be listening to this right now, or somebody trying to build out, the idea of the AI approach, what are some of the things that they could ask themselves to consider whether they're more mature or less mature, and where they fall on this scale? Are there some very simple questions they can ask to get a sense as to where they fall on that?
I don't know that it's all that simple because it's very varied. There are many dimensions to data maturity. Now, I put the use of artificial intelligence at a higher end of the data maturity spectrum. It's part of data maturity, in my opinion. Data is so intricate or involved with AI that it's really half the battle or more of getting you to AI. And so as your data matures, you become more and more and more ready for AI. So are there some simple things? I mean, you can look at, is my data well performing? Do I know where it is? Do I know where it is? Can I go to the whiteboard and draw up our architecture? Or is that really asking way too much? It is in many organizations. And this is what I mean by have an architecture. Have a great architecture, one there is a simple level to the architecture. There's details, but there's a simple level that everybody needs to get on board with. This is what we're doing. We're doing a data mesh. There are data lake houses out there on the spokes of the mesh. We're using data products to move data throughout the organization or what have you. But so do people understand what that data architecture is? Is it well performing? Do they understand it? And is it governed? You have the correct amount of business input to what you're doing? Or are you making calls that you perhaps should not be making? It's not a scalable approach to have a technologist making calls about how the data should be represented, what are the data quality rules. Some are obvious to everybody, but many are not. And many need to come from the business, and they need to be implemented by technologists. So I think those are kind of the top three criteria you can ask yourself to see if you're ready for AI, if your data is mature enough for AI.
So, William, why aren't more companies doing it? It sounds eminently logical what you're describing. Why aren't more people doing it?
Well, more are. Why haven't more done it? It's hard. It's hard. Like I said before, I think many of us, especially technologists, we like to deal with the technology and not look at the bigger picture of things necessarily. And frankly, when you start looking at the bigger picture, it's less fun for a lot of people, because now you're dealing with people instead of technology. And that can be less fun. You have to change minds and so on. I personally gravitate to those difficult roles that are necessary to get the projects successful for a client. And that many times means organizational change management. And so I think that's the key. Why aren't they doing it? Because they got to do more organizational change, and that's hard.
Which really leads into my next question, which gets into the transformation and leadership, because you talk about enterprise AI enablement and you emphasize strong leadership as being crucial for AI success, which I know I certainly agree with, and I would tend to believe Alistair believes in as well. So what specific leadership capabilities are most critical when organizations transition from traditional BI to autonomous AI agents?
Yeah, I mean, I think vision is important. I think knowing where we're headed with our data, with our technology, where we're headed on a 3-year basis, where we're headed on a 5-year basis, where we're headed on a 10-year basis. Now, that will obviously change. Further out, it'll change. But I think it's important that organizations have that true north, have that vision for those shorter time periods especially, but even the longer time period, so you know where you're marching towards. And I think it's important for every project that comes up that the enterprise looks at that project and says, not, well, let's do it the same way we've always done projects of this nature, but where's the opportunity here with this project to actually get us closer to our goals? Maybe now's the time to implement a new tool. Maybe now's the time to start making it look like that architecture that we know we need. Or maybe now's the time to start using data products to move data around. It could be 20 things, right? So you got to look at everything through that lens today, and not through the lens of let's do it like we've always done it, but have that vision.
So just follow up on that. Just you've guided, as I'm sure, many global 2000 enterprises through major data transformations in your 30 plus year career. What's different this time, right? What's different in terms of implementing AI agents compared to previous technology adoptions, right? That you've been through, because you've been through big data adoptions, whether it's Hadoop, unstructured data, everything else. What's different this time, and what organizational, in terms of organizational change management and stakeholder buy-in, could you talk to that a little bit?
It's a lot. I'm a big believer that AI agents are just changing the landscape, and are changing enterprises, and will change them dramatically. It might be all we're talking about by the end of the year. I mean, it's like that, and the change can be profound. And I don't know how we're all going to handle it, frankly. But we're talking about agents that take the place of what people are doing, what complete departments are doing potentially, manage the supply chain. That level of direction that we can give to AI agents is just unprecedented. And the level of change that brings, talk about organizational change management, that's more profound than anything that we've ever seen. And this industry hasn't exactly been sitting on its heels for the past 20 years either. There's always something, but I have not experienced a time of so much change. Now is that time. And so now's the time to where if you're behind, if you're feeling like, well, our technology's not up to speed, it's an opportunity to try to catch up with agents. So I encourage everybody to look at agents. We've been looking at the marketplace of agents for our clients. It's exciting. Of course, it's early days, so I don't think it's going to be quite as plug and play as some of it appears. But we've already seen some great AI agent success stories out there, and we're going to see more.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing with agentifying data. I think the ability to be able to use agents that can talk the way the data talks, can interrogate and provide access to that data with the relevant controls, okay, and be able to then provide a disintermediation layer between that data and and the other parts of the system that need to access it allows you to have a sort of a set of data translators that sit talking to that data. And I think that's a huge opportunity to be able to unlock a lot of different, silos that maybe haven't been unlocked before.
Absolutely, absolutely. What AI agents are supposedly built with true AI. Now we got to watch the term AI agents now because everybody's jumping in on that. So we got to make sure that it's truly using AI. And if it's truly using AI, it's able to process data in ways that humans could never catch up to. And so the days of some of the roles like data analysts and so on, it's going the way of AI agents. That is for sure.
I think you're right, but I also, talking about the roles, I'm seeing huge uptick in roles relating to data science. Okay, so the need, especially with AI, the role of the data scientist to be able to understand how do you pull in the right data, what data do you need, how do you design, okay, so that it's compliant with the relevant, regulations, and then the flavor of data scientist that has to monitor the system once it's in production. So it used to be called ML ops or Gen AI ops. That's those are the people who deal with it once it's out there and been deployed. And I think there's new roles that are sort of spinning up that haven't existed before. And even though there's going to be agents sitting doing those, it's going to need a level of synthesis and analysis that I think humans, especially needing humans in the loop here, are going to have to perform to be able to guide this to ensure it delivers the unique things that specific enterprise is looking for.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that is where it is today. And those higher level roles, if you will, there's opportunity there. There's opportunity for the people that will accept the realities, moving up into those roles for sure, and actually contributing on a higher basis to the organization because there is a dearth of skills in this area and all the things we're talking about. Getting our data architecture up to speed and so on. Like I said, there's an acceleration of the need right now, and there's not enough skilled people to do it in the way that organizations would like. That is for sure. There's a lot of opportunity right now.
Yeah, and given your experience with those technical implementations and working with the boardrooms, as you mentioned, in the C-suites, what's the biggest disconnect that you see between what executives expect from AI agents and what is technically feasible today?
Oh, that's a good question. The expectations are all over the board. Some of them are too low and don't really get it, and some of them are too high. Maybe they're listening to vendor hype a little bit too much. So the realities are somewhere between that. We have some good AI agent marketplaces out there right now. We have AI agents that talk to one another and make things happen on a accelerated basis as a result. But I think it really takes a commitment to AI agents. It really takes the C-suite to say, we believe, we see it, and we believe in AI agents. So that means we might have a failure or two on the way to success, and that's got to be okay. But let's start adopting AI agents, get some organizational work with AI agents, some experience, and that will serve us well for the long haul. So I think it's really, you got to commit to it if you believe in it. And I don't know if we're making people believe in it here right now so far, but I definitely do believe in it. I know you do as well. So take a stand on that.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, it's naive to believe there wouldn't be mistakes, but you don't learn anything unless you try. And so you need to be able to try different things, okay, see which things work within a structured framework, but then ultimately use that learning to improve your understanding of how and where you can use the data in the right way. So to that point, if you want to stay ahead, the only way to understand how to take advantage of these new technologies is with some trials that are going to work inside the organization and learn from that.
Ultimately, it's got to work, and picking that first use case for AI agents, that's a skill. You want something that's going to be relatively easy to do, but at the same time, it should drive some impact to the organization. So, and the other part is it a good use case that sets us up for future use cases? So is it a good prerequisite for where we're going, in other words? So, and that's where a lot of organizations are right now. They're picking their first use cases. And so, we're kind of guiding them through that process. And but sooner or later, this can't take months. Let's pick something. You've got 12 projects on the docket right now. There's one there that could be done with agents. Let's do it.
So you are a top global influencer across multiple data disciplines, William. From your unique vantage point, what industries or use cases are you seeing as the early adopters of AI agents, and where are they succeeding where others struggle?
There is a set of great use cases that we're seeing success with AI, Gen AI, AI agents. They're not mutually exclusive, but I'll start with drug discovery. When you think about the details that they have to get into and the research they have to share. Also, financial research. They're getting into deeper levels of data that they're bringing to bear in their research. They're able to access so much data now that they're getting better at predicting. And of course, we all see this one, for better or for worse, automated customer service. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's annoying, but it's here to stay. And some of the chatbots are very good. Some of them are not so good, but that is a big area. That's if I were to name the number one area where companies are getting into AI agents, it's probably that automated customer service. Predictive maintenance is another one. Predicting when a machine's going to fail, a part's going to fail, getting ahead of that, making a plan for it, and that sort of thing. Fraud detection in finance, another big one. Snuffing out the criminal activity before it happens, or before it happens too much for the organization. So being able to triage the global network of transactions is AI. It's a big use of AI. I mean, I could go on. Personalized marketing, supply chain, and inventory management, another big one. Healthcare now is starting to adopt AI for diagnosis and treatment. It's unlimited, really, but those are some of the heavy hitters.
Absolutely. So when you're coming to talk to companies, I know one of the things that you do is you help clients work through an information management action plan. Okay. How are they going to be able to advance their analytical capabilities across the spectrum of information management, and all of those different areas? So when how does a company know whether that's the sort of thing that they need? Do they need help? Or, what are their sort of gating criteria for them to sit back and think, hey, this is something that I would need to sit down with William and his team on and drive forward?
If an organization hasn't had such an exercise and hasn't had a good exercise of this nature in the past couple years, yeah, I think that they need to have it. They need to bring that expertise in-house for a while and have a look at their individual problems from a kind of a non-judgmental, but and not someone that's emotionally involved as well, and have a look at their data and bring those ideas to bear. Ideas are ideas of the data mesh, of the data products, of the data lakehouse, of the streaming data, of the graph data, of the master data. Right now, organizations are just inundated with buzzwords, as well as new technology that we're bringing to them. You guys and others, are bringing them new technology they need to consider. It's unlike any time in the past, and they are just overwhelmed right now. And so take a breath, get some help, get that action plan in place. Again, it gets back to that 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan that I talked about. I mean, that's what the action plan is that we do. And so giving them that true north that they could start to move towards, and guidance on looking at their application portfolio, how to get there. And very importantly, especially for executives, why? Why do we want to get there? Showing the ROI. And when you show the ROI, or a lower TCO as the case may be, then it's much more supportable. And then the motivation spreads throughout the organization. And so getting executives behind something like that, very powerful.
So you were on TEDx, you did a TEDx talk, and you focused on data as being the next natural resource, right? Which is like the next oil rush. How does the rise of AI agents change the value proposition of enterprise data, and what new monetization opportunities do you see emerging? You mentioned personalized marketing, number one, as being one, but could you speak to that a little bit?
I mean, I just think data is more important than ever, and that it's the lifeblood of AI agents. And so they're just not going to, if you believe in AI agents, you better get your data act together. You better have all your data well-performing, people know where it is, and it's governed again. So when you do that, you are ready for AI agents and for the future. And you can pick more from the marketplace and ideas, and you can start accelerating your progress towards an organization that is, I won't say completely run by AI agents, but where appropriate, AI agents are doing their thing for you in a reasonable manner. And are there new things? Oh yeah, a lot of the use cases I mentioned before are relatively new in terms of we've always been doing it. Like what did I mention? Predictive maintenance. We've always been doing it, but we haven't been doing it at this level where it's precise, it's correct. It was a guessing game beforehand. Let's face it. But with the data in place, it's almost uncanny how accurate it is.
Yeah, I agree. And what's interesting here is, so our CEO Mike Crop was at an event earlier this week. Oh, sorry, earlier last week. And he had, probably 300 people in the audience, where he was on a panel, and there are a lot of people from a whole different industries talking about AI and the future of AI. And he had so many people come up to him afterwards and saying, "Hey, I'm a parent of a kid that's a teenager moving forward, and I want them to be able to not be left behind by this, and I don't know where to direct them." So it's an interesting question, really, because this is, we're going to see, we know that AI needs data. Okay, it's the lifeblood of this. To your point, and the TEDx talk you gave, okay, it's the new resource. So with that in mind, if you had, kids and so on that you were talking to, what advice would you give them as they move into, to college level and so on and beyond, or want to move in their career to be able to access, okay, and take an approach to get in the direction that you've already taken with your organization? What stepping stones do they take? Where should they focus?
Well, ironically, I do have these conversations because it's kind of a prevalent concern right now of that age group and of their parents. Um, it is likely that anyone entering college now, the job that they will do hasn't yet been formulated really well. So I have a list. I don't have it memorized, but I have a list of new roles that I would direct people towards. I know some of them. Prompt engineer. How are we prompting the LLMs? Which ones are we prompting? When and how? And how do we keep that consistent over time? How are they trained? How can we train our own and bring make it more of a RAG type architecture where we have our own, data in that and so on. So data architecture, prompt engineering. How about this one for people to think about. AI ethics manager, or whatever you want to say about that. How about someone who is an AI explainer? Explains AI to the government, to their supply chain partners, to their customers, to their employees. That's a job right there. And with all of these new jobs, what I find is that enterprises are doing them, but it's sort of slotted into somebody else's job, and it's starting to overwhelm them because these are real jobs in enterprises. And it's starting to be where they are starting to say, okay, I give up. We need a prompt engineer or 2 or 3 because it's that important to us. We're using LLMs that much. We need an AI ethics manager, not have it slotted into the data governance leads, job title. It's that important. So there's a new set of jobs that I would start to move towards, and a lot of it does have to do with data architecture. Yeah, that's an old job, but it's a new job. It's a new job if you do it the new ways. It's an old job if you're just still building a centralized data warehouse or something like that. So even old jobs are new. So data architecture, data security, there's going to be a lot of work there. But I would stay away from some things like data analysis. I would stay away from good old data integration because the tools have just made it so easy. I would stay away from things like master data management implementation. Now, I'm a big advocate now, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of the implementation of that is becoming automated. And just look at what, whatever you're thinking about, what's the potential of AI to automate that? And it's pretty high in some cases. So I would say beware of that, but also be nimble to what may come.
Thank you for that. I would like to switch a little bit more towards the practical implementation and measuring ROI. Right? I mean, in your consulting work, as all good consultants do, you emphasize a clear ROI focus. So how do organizations effectively measure the ROI or return on investment from AI agents, particularly when dealing with decision-making processes that were previously all human-driven, like business process outsourcing and stuff like that?
Yes, very interesting. I think, first of all, with ROI, everybody should be aware that in order to do ROI, you have to break down what you're doing to cash flow. And cash comes in, cash goes out, ultimately, at the end of the day. And so it depends on what the AI agent is doing as to whether it's we're trying to grow the revenue here, or we're trying to reduce the expenses here, or maybe it's a combination. I think a lot of AI agents are a combination of those two. So it's about predicting and measuring, what those two numbers are going to be to the bottom line over the course of time. And not only does it get you in positive territory, but in my experience, it has to be strong in positive territory because you're competing with 10 other things that are throwing ROIs around that, sometimes they're eye-popping, right? And you have to be believable. So in order to do ROI in the organization, you have to bring some measure of credibility to the table. And sometimes that comes because you've had success otherwise in the organization. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it, do it to success, build that credibility so that when you offer a new project with ROI, you're believed. And so, but breaking these projects down to cash flow, that's a real art form. We could get into that, but that is what is necessary for ROI.
That's a great point, and we don't have the time to double click into that one in any great detail. But as you look at the numerous data integration challenges you've had throughout your career, what are some of the unique integration challenges when AI agents need to access and act upon data that are across multiple enterprise systems, whether it's ERP, CRM, wherever?
Well, I haven't had data challenges like that with agents yet, but they're coming. But I can foresee that AI agents are going to have challenges with some of the bigger challenges that I've had and others have had, just in terms of data integration. I think about one grocery store that we did a project for a couple years ago, and they have, I forget how many tens of thousands of units around the United States, and they send their data in. They're constantly pinging all that data, and sometimes it's really hard to tell. Did we get all the data? Is all the data right? Did they change their POS system at store number 125?
Yeah.
All this crazy stuff that always happens. So I think agents can clean that up, detect that, and give us some great homogeneous data that's consistent, that we can rely on, and that is real time. So these are some of the challenges that I think AI agents for something like that can do.
That's great. Well, as we wrap up here, we always like to finish up with something a little bit more personal. So what do you like to do for fun, William?
For fun, fitness. I'm into fitness. I'm working out every day. I enjoy it quite a bit. I work out in many different modalities. People who know me, they know that I'm all about that. And so, it might be running, it might be strength training, it might be yoga, it might be sports, particularly soccer and martial arts. But yeah, something different every day. I think as you get a little bit older, you have to change it up and do something different every day, not pound your body on one modality on a regular basis. And so I compete in hybrid sports, and I think because that involves a lot of different things, it just keeps me motivated, keeps me focused in my workouts. So I like that. That's my number one hobby, I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, William. And for our audience, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you, William?
Through our website, McKnightCG.com. C for consulting, G for group. McKnightCG.com. So you can see all our services there. And by the way, we didn't get into it, but we have a whole host of services to vendors as well, because I'm a leading analyst in the space. We do white papers, webinars, those sorts of things. But we do engineering-based products for vendors in the space, both leading as well as up and coming. So benchmarks, systems for booth display. We get into architecture. We get into competitive. So all that sort of things there.
Awesome. Well, congratulations for such an amazing career and for all your successes. William McKnight, thank you so much for being part of our podcast today. And I'm sure our listeners get a lot of value out of it. Thank you so much for joining us. That's a wrap on this week's episode of the Agentic Insider. Thank you for listening. For show notes and more, please visit agenticinsider.show. To learn more about Iridius, visit iridius.ai. We'll see you next time.